Hello, and welcome to CSCI 415, Windows System Administration. My name's Corey Nance, and I'll be your instructor this semester. In this video, I just want to give you a brief overview of what the course is about. We'll look at the course syllabus, and then also get you familiar with the way that it's laid out in Moodle as well. So as you can see, when you click into our Moodle site, there's a Getting Started module up here at the top, and that contains the welcome letter, which if you haven't already read it, please go ahead and read that. The welcome video that you're watching right now, a link to student support services with various resources located here on campus that can help you out, a tentative course schedule that we'll come back and look at here in a minute, instructor information and contact, so that has my information and contact details that you can click here and view, or also view them here in the course syllabus, as well as a link to Slack. So let's start off by looking at the course syllabus. Okay, so this is a Spring 2 class for 2017. With it being a Spring 2 class, that means that the course is taught in pretty much a half semester. So since we're covering a full semester's worth of content in a half semester, it's expected that you'll put in twice the effort that you put in a regular full semester class. The prerequisite is a grade of C or better in CSCI 211. My contact information is listed here. My email is probably the best way to get a hold of me. If you don't prefer to email, you can definitely give me a call on my office phone. Feel free to leave a voicemail. Those voicemails get emailed out to me immediately, so even if you do call and leave a voicemail and I'm not in the office, I will get a copy of that. Google Hangouts. I don't sign into Hangouts very often, but that is one way that we could potentially have a meeting outside of office hours. So if that's something you're interested in, please reach out to me ahead of time to set that up. My office location is located in the Coastal Science Center 160I, and my office hours are Tuesday, Thursday from 9 to 9:55, 2:10 to 3:35 p.m., as well as Wednesday from 9 to 1:30 p.m. Now, some weeks we have department meetings or committee meetings from 12:30 to 1:30 on Wednesdays, so sometimes that particular hour may not be available. If you do wish to come on Wednesday afternoon around that time, please let me know so that I can check my schedule and make sure I'm available. In addition to those times, I'm also available by appointment. There is a required textbook for the course. It's Windows Server Administration Fundamentals. Um, it's published by Microsoft Official Academic Course, and the ISBN number is listed here. So you can either pick that up at our bookstore or search for it online and buy a copy there. There are some technology requirements. We're going to be running virtual machines. So my recommendations are a multi-core CPU with virtualization extensions. Without virtualization extensions, you're not going to have a good time running VM. If you do have hardware that doesn't meet this, I can set you up with a lab machine here at the Coastal Science Center in room 209 that you can work on there. In addition to the processor, I also recommend having at least 4 gigabytes of RAM and at least 60 gigabytes of free hard disk space. Our final exam is actually taking place on May 2nd, and it'll be an online exam, so with that it'll just be due at 11:59 p.m. Okay, so what is this course all about? This course provides an introduction to Windows System Administration. Some of the topics that we'll cover include configuring servers, file shares, print services, virtualization, DHCP, DNS, implementing authentication and authorization systems, managing users, group policy, security, and firewall management. Students will gain hands-on experience managing Windows systems. So for course objectives, upon successful completion of the course, students should be able to apply working knowledge of computer system administration in the context of a Windows Server environment, understand the concepts of group policy objects, demonstrate an ability to implement and manage key networking services such as DHCP and DNS, demonstrate an ability to implement and manage an Active Directory environment. So these course objectives get mapped to student learning outcomes. This is primarily for ABET, our accrediting agency. So if you're curious in how those maps, there's a matrix down here, and these would be the ABET requirements. Now, I do reserve the right to make changes to the syllabus. If I do make any changes, I'll be sure to notify everyone. The typical mode of notification will be by email, so I'll send out an email letting everyone know that the syllabus has changed and what change I had made. No new copies will be distributed. Of course, this is an online course, so an initial copy wasn't distributed either. As you can see, this is a Google Doc, so any changes I make will be reflected immediately by the link that you have access to. Okay, so communication, again, email is probably the best way to get a hold of me. When you are communicating via email, please include the course number and section in the subject line. This helps me filter emails by priority if I have a certain due date coming up for one class and not another. Also, be sure to write a proper email. So a proper email would include salutations, and be sure to spell check. Don't use a lot of acronyms or anything like that, so that it's very clear what it is that you're trying to say. If you choose to contact me by phone, please feel free to leave a voicemail. But if you do, please include your name, the course number, course section, and callback number, and then just a brief message about why you're calling. As I stated earlier, these voicemails are automatically forwarded to my email address, so I'll get those wherever I'm located. Okay, so the grading breakdown for the course is pretty simple. Every week we're going to have quizzes and assignments. Those count for 25% each for a total of 50%. We'll have a few discussions this semester, and those discussions will count for 20% of the grade. And then at the very end, we'll have a final exam, which will count for 30% of the grade. I follow the standard university grading scale. It's a 10-point scale, so 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is a C, and so on. You will notice that I have D pluses, C pluses, and B pluses mixed within if you're in the upper range of that 10-point scale. Student feedback. So all assignments will be graded within 5 business days of the due date and returned in Moodle. So you'll be able to see your grade reflected in the gradebook in Moodle, as well as any comments that were left by me. Emails will be answered by the end of the next business day. So two things here. One, if you don't receive a response, please resend your message. There's been a couple of occasions where it's gotten caught maybe by a spam filter, never made it out of someone else's outbox if they weren't using the university provided email. Another thing would be on the weekends, I will definitely make a best effort to respond, but sometimes I'm off doing other things and I may not be able to respond to you until Monday, so please keep that in mind. If any of these times need to be changed, I'll definitely notify you guys ahead of time to let you guys know what's going on. Instructional activities. So the instructional activities that we'll have here in the course will be primarily readings in combination with video lectures. As far as assessments, we're going to have 7 assignments, 7 quizzes, 2 discussions, and 1 final exam. Due dates. So I am strict on the due date. Assignments due dates can be found in Moodle underneath the course calendar, and unless it's stated otherwise, assignments are due by 11:59 p.m. of the Moodle server time of the due date. Late assignments will not be accepted. It's your responsibility to submit any work prior to the due date. If you are having trouble with the course assignments, contact me earlier and come in and get help so I can help you before the due date. Attendance. So this is an online course, and for a distance learning course, an absence is operationally defined as a missed online submission deadline, such as a quiz, assignment, or discussion post. Classroom code of conduct. So I expect everyone to be respectful of myself and your peers in the class. Being respectful definitely applies to the online code of conduct as well. So take a minute, please, to read through this. Basically, it boils down to respecting everybody, not being offensive or anything like that. Academic integrity. So cheating and plagiarism will not be tolerated. Submitting all or portions of someone else's work as your own without giving them proper credit is plagiarism and potentially cheating. The course policy states that any offense of plagiarism and cheating will result in a grade of FX for the course and will be referred to the university's academic integrity officer. So please do your own work, turn in your own work. If you do find some information on the internet somewhere, be sure to cite that so that I know that you're not plagiarizing and that you found this information somewhere and are using it in your assignment. Okay, so this is just an excerpt from the Code of Student Conduct. Feel free to read through this. Disability accommodations. So if you do have a disability, please reach out to our Office of Disability Services. After you talk to them, they will give you basically a form that you submit to me that lets me know what sort of accommodations need to be made. Up until that point, I'm not able to make any accommodations, so please get that done as soon as possible. And the last part of the syllabus here is just some resourceful links for you. Some of the student services that are provided by the university. So some that you may be interested in are distance learning support services, technical support from student computing services, maybe their help desk so that you can get a hold of them if you're having problems, the Office of Academic Integrity, the disability services, and so on. Okay, so that's a quick rundown of the syllabus. Please make sure you read it in its entirety, and if you have any questions about it, reach out and let me know. So let's take a look at the tentative course schedule. Now, with this being a half semester class, we don't have a lot of room for flexibility. We are planning to cover 7 chapters, and we just so happen to have 7 weeks here in the semester, so we'll be covering 1 chapter every week. So off to the left here, I have Monday's date for that week, the chapter that we'll be covering in the middle column, and then on the far right column will be whatever deliverables are going to be due that week. So we can see that each week we're going to have a quiz and a lab. And some weeks, actually this one in particular, we'll have a discussion. So let's take week 1 for an example. We're going to have class introductions. That's a discussion where you introduce yourself, and we'll take a look at that assignment here in a minute. We'll have the VM setup, which is really part of the lab, so lab 1, and then we'll also have quiz 1 that'll be due. Now, all assignments are going to be due on the Friday of that week. You can see in Moodle's calendar all of the due dates laid out. We'll look at that when we go back to the Moodle course. I want to point out that down here at the very bottom, I have some important dates highlighted. March 17th is the last day to drop without an academic record for Spring 2. So if you stay enrolled after March 17th and you try to drop, you're going to have to drop with a W. And that's only if you drop before April 10th. If you try to drop after April 10th, then your grade would be put in as a WF. The last day of classes for Spring 2 is April 25th. Our final exam will be due May 2nd by 11:59 p.m. So all of the quizzes, the final exam, the labs, they're all going to be open book, open notes as well, just not open neighbor, or open classmate. So you won't be able to work together on those, but I do encourage you to use some of your other resources that are available. Alright, so back over here, I wanted to point out the calendar. So the calendar is a little widget over here on the left. If you click on the hyperlink, it'll actually open up into its own page, and we can see what's due each week. And you'll notice that the only time that things are due is on Friday. That is, of course, with the exception of our final exam, which will be due on Tuesday, May 5th, or May 2nd. All right, let's go back to the main page. As I pointed out earlier, there is this instructor information and contact page. So if you click on that, it's just a small, concise version of what was right there in the syllabus. So if you need to quickly reach out to me, you can take a look right here. Slack is something that I'm experimenting with this semester. It is a chat room for teams, and I've created a team just for my classes here at Coastal. And inside the chat room, inside the teams, there are chat rooms for each of the classes that I'm teaching. So if you click on this link, it'll take you to where you can sign in, and if you don't have an account, then you can go ahead and register. You will have to register with your school email address because that's the way it's set up right now. There is a desktop app, so you can either use the web app, which really is the desktop app. The desktop app is just a GUI skin pretty much on top of that web application. To show you what it looks like, looks something like this. All of your teams that you're signed into will be over here on the left. So this is my team, CCU-Nance. And in here, there'll be channels that you can join. So general channel is just kind of for any sort of just random conversation. And then I have class-specific channels like CSCI 415, SP17. So this is the one for our course. And what you want to do is just join it. I'm already joined, so when I click on it, it brings me to the chat room, and in here is where you can talk to your peers about the class. You can ask questions. I'll be monitoring the Slack chat, so if there are any questions, I'll try to respond, but I also encourage you guys to try to answer each other's questions as well. Okay. So, as we saw in the tentative schedule, everything's broken up into pretty much one module per week. And here we are, we're going to start off this first week in Module 1. So if we go into Module 1, the layout's going to be the same for all of the modules. So we'll have the module title up here at the top, any of the learning outcomes that are expected out of this module, followed by the assignments. So for this module, you'll need to complete the class introductions by Friday at 11:59 p.m. The reason I had to put it this way was I haven't figured out a way to put in a due date for a discussion. So if I figure that out, I'll definitely get that put into the calendar as well. But if you hover over Friday, you'll notice that there's not a discussion listed. Just realize that this one is due Friday of the first week of class. So let's take a look at that. So for this class introduction, I just want for you to take a moment and introduce yourself to the class. So in your post, include your name, where you're from, what your major is and why you chose it, and what you plan to do after graduation. Each one of those criteria will count for 25% for a total of 100% on this assignment. So the next thing that I'd like you to do this week is go ahead and read Chapter 1. These chapters are not super long. They're also not very dry, so I do find it to be more of an interesting read than most textbooks. After that, I'd encourage you to go ahead and complete Quiz 1. These questions are all based pretty much right out of the book. I did post up slides if you wanted to look at some slide notes that were taken from the book. However, that's not a requirement that you look at those. Step 4, go ahead and watch the Lab 1 introduction video. So in this one specifically, I sort of went through each of the steps of the lab just to make sure we could all start on the same foot. So I definitely encourage you to watch that video as you go through and complete Lab 1. And when you complete Lab 1, you'll see you come in and there's some instructions. So most of the labs are broken down like this. I have a series of tasks that need to be completed. And throughout doing those tasks, I'll either ask you questions that you'll need to write your answer to, or I'll have you take screenshots to prove that you were able to complete that component of the lab. And then at the very end, you'll compile all of your answers and screenshots together and submit that as a PDF in Moodle. So once you have it, you'll come back in here, click Add Submission, and submit that way anytime before the due date. And for supplemental reading for Module 1, I added this Getting Started with VirtualBox. It's really a link straight to the documentation for VirtualBox. I think most people are probably already familiar with using either VirtualBox or a different hypervisor. And along those lines, I definitely have no problem if you choose to use VMware or Parallels or some other type of hypervisor. I just chose VirtualBox as that's the one that I typically use. If you are not familiar with hypervisors at all, I encourage you to go through and just read through this beginning section of the VirtualBox manual so you can get an idea of what a hypervisor does and what it provides us. And if you have any questions about that, just reach out and I'll try to help you on it. Alright, so that's pretty much what I wanted to cover here in this first video. I look forward to working with everyone this semester. And as always, if you have questions, reach out to me. If not, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.